Through the mists comes forth RPGaDay! In the year 2021, RPGaDay comes back for its 8th year. A time in August when every day we tackle another question or topic by answering in a way that uplifts the gaming community and answers questions people might have about this crazy hobby of ours that serves to build the community and bring it up, that many of us make blogs about, video blogs, art, or great works. In celebration of the community of gamers, I welcome you to RPGaDay 2021. Hello my friends, I am Rob the Dungeon Tutor, and today we are doing an RPGaDay video. This is for the year 2021. The month is August, and today is the 24th. My time is flying. Today, the word is translate. Now, some things don't really require a lot of translation, like speaking to an owlbear. Either the owlbear, if it's smart, knows a language, and you either speak it or you don't. If you need to translate across the languages, then perhaps a useful spell can do that. Or you just deal with it some other way. But translation usually is just a kind of a stumbling block. If it is a pass, do not pass scenario, either you can somehow understand and unlock the knowledge, or you can't. You can speak the language, or you can't. And if you can't, then you just don't understand whatever's going on. You don't understand what's written. You can't understand what a person is saying. And having something or someone around to translate becomes necessary. Or you just find ways around it. If there's for instance, a very interesting riddle that's written on a door that bars you from going through, and you don't speak the language, you can find some way to understand the language so you can answer the riddle. Or maybe you can break out picks and smash the wall next to the door and you don't have to worry about it. So, that would be an example. And then when you get disintegrate, no riddle door can get in your way, right? But, more to the point, translating is something that can be used on occasion to inspire adventure. And I'm throwing a scenario at you to illustrate just such an example. Now, treasure maps and the like have been something that players have been able to find as treasure for a very long time. Sometimes it's an adventure reward that leads to further adventure, and that can be great. Especially if that's also meaningful in your story. It's not just a side quest to find some extra loot to take you out of the way, kill off a couple of days, and can be that, certainly, but if you want to make a good use of everyone's time, tying it into plot elements can be nice. But another plot element that can be gotten from maps is sometimes a map just can't be understood or read. Maybe it's a map for a foreign shore that your characters have never seen. Maybe it's a map with landmarks that just don't seem to make any sense to you. Maybe it's a map with writing on it that you can't understand, belonging to a language that the DM makes sure that none of the players understand. And then cap that all off, because a spell like Comprehend Languages is relatively inexpensive. First level wizard spell, I believe it's even castable as a ritual in 5th edition. Doesn't work. You can't understand it. It's magically protected so that it can't just be cast a spell and it's done. Now what do? Well, when you're confronted with a situation like that, somebody obviously went through a lot of effort to put magics on this that stopped your efforts. That's generally going to incite a player's curiosity the more. Now their character has to find out the answer to this. This could be very important, or it could be incredibly lucrative that somebody goes to this kind of effort. So, what do? In a fantasy world, one of the first things that you can do is go and find a sage. Find somebody who has the know-how to translate this, or to impart the significance, or maybe even recognize the location. And by sage, I just mean a learned person. I don't necessarily mean somebody whose profession is sage. If you go to a cartographer who has wares covering, places your average person's never seen or even heard of, and they have some accurate maps, you bring them such a map, they have a certain chance of maybe being able to recognize it, if that's even possible. If this is a, say, thousands of year old map and islands have vanished since and such, it may become almost more difficult, if not impossible. If it's a map for a different plane of existence, for instance, that might be nigh impossible for a cartographer bound to that world to be able to do something like that. So, you can make maps that defy conventional means of discovery. But, alongside of that, if you have any meaning appended to the map, there are other options too. For instance, there are divination spells that can be used to gather more information. Like, asking them, where is this map showing? Where can we go to find somebody who can tell us the secrets of this map? Things like that in a commune spell, perhaps, if you really want to append something. Or even contacting another plane for somebody who might have some significance to this map, might get you an answer that might lead you to further adventure. By now you're really invested in this map. Now you've probably cast a complicated spell or risked torquing off somebody's god, asking them about a piece of paper that they don't really care that much about. But maybe you have some answers that progress you. Now maybe you need to travel somewhere to find somebody, right? Overland adventure, or, if they're powerful enough, maybe a teleportarium, something like that. Depends on your adventure and your campaign, I guess. But it would be a good time to break out the travel music and crank out a few encounters that way to entertain them. The obligatory bandits that try holding you up and then realize at the last minute that they really shouldn't have been holding up these adventurers. Yeah, that's a fun one. You're going by horses? Griffins. Griffins are fun. That can be a good encounter for relatively lower level adventurers. Higher levels, it becomes less exciting. Passing dragon might be curious about where the group is going, and if they're going in pursuit of a treasure map, that could be something they'd be interested in. Or maybe they could even help. Dragons live for thousands of years. They might recognize landmarks that are now vanished. They might be able to pick up on languages that the players don't understand. A particularly scholarly dragon might be the goal of such a quest, to try to find the lair of, say, this wizened bronze dragon who's, heavily scarred and ancient and has seen many things and may have a goal or quest for you to answer your questions that might provide more adventure. See how these things snowball? You never have to stop the snowball train if you don't want to, but eventually the players will want satisfaction for all of their efforts. And the more you build it up, the more it kind of behooves you to pay off with something pretty epic. Now, the one time I've done this, and I admit I haven't gone to that well too often. I usually have more cohesive stories than just following after a single map. But one time I spanned the quest for the resolution of the map for, I think it was about 14 play sessions. One thing led to another, led to another, led to another, led to another. Eventually they met with this great sage on top of a mountain, which was a slog to get to the top of the mountain itself. They fought frost giants. They had found areas where magic didn't work, so their levitation spells were useless to them. They actually had to break out ropes and pitons and do some climbing. Just such a trial. They finally get to the top. They find the sage. The sage demands that they bring him back a sandwich from his hometown. The mage at this time is so mad he just teleports to the village, gets the sandwich, and teleports back. Because they have that kind of power and they're able to bypass that kind of shenanigans. And he's like, okay, well, you're clearly nobody to trifle with, and you did what I asked. So he translated the map, and it led to another continent that they didn't know of. And few people in their world did. They missed talking to anybody who would have helped. They found an underground tunnel that had been built by mostly dwarves that actually went under the ocean. And they used basically a lightning rail to get across it relatively quick with relatively few encounters. There were a few. Mostly in the fact that these dwarves from this ancient civilization had to keep fixing the thing because it kept breaking in time for them to have some more encounters with some deep denizens. If you're going to go through the Underdark in a lightning train, it's going to attract some attention. Eventually get to the other side, which was relatively close to their goal, and they eventually got to the goal, and I believe the reward was they found a +5 Holy Avenger and they found +3 plate armor, and what was it? I think it was a piece of the Rod of Seven Parts or some element like that. No, they found really good treasure at the end of it. It was worth their time. They never really regretted all of those adventures, and I got a chance to break out some elements of adventure that I don't often do while I'm driving the players with more plot-driven elements. And honestly, it was kind of fun to have those kind of situations set up and unfold before the players. So the translation itself can sometimes be an adventure, especially if you're involving things that the players don't have but wish they had, and can then move forward. And at least at 2 points in that adventure, the players surprised me with what their characters knew, and they bypassed a small little section. So they were rewarded for their forethought in having a more diverse skill element than I thought they had. So it was pretty cool. So maybe this will give you some ideas yourselves on how you can run something where translation is the feature for a particular adventure. Something the players desperately hungry for, if not absolutely need, to move the story forward and to look for those great rewards that otherwise might have gone completely unnoticed. So, thanks for joining me. I'm Rob, the Dungeon Tutor, also Omnisci. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't done so. And if you yourself have any ideas on how you've worked translation into your own adventures, or for something that seems like an onerous and dreary task, that you can soup it up and make it something that stands out as an excellent plot element, feel free to leave in the comments and share with everybody. We can talk about it, maybe make another video about it, which would be cool. But hoping that you continue watching. We still got a week's worth of video yet. So until the next one, where I really hope to see you again, thanks for joining me this time, and farewell.